We are live again. Yep. Hello, 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 hello. Switched. Yep. Hello, 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 hello. Alright, so welcome everyone. Today we're gonna continue the exchange project and I'm gonna explain whatever we did yesterday, which is to learn the architecture, how the exchange works in general, and like everything about it. Let's go and like redo everything. All right, let's revise everything that we did yesterday. I'll also share the code snippet which had the entire logic. So yeah, uh, backpack exchange. Okay, so this is the exchange that is actually created by Harkirat. So he used to work in backpack, and we're gonna use this only for mostly stuff. So okay, so this is BTC, USD, Bitcoin, and USD. Yesterday, we studied about how a particular exchange will have four parts in the UI basically. The first part is the chart, the second part is the order book, the third part is the trades that has happened, and the fourth part is the UI in which a user can come and provide a bid or continue with an ask. Right. So, for this, we'll go into a particular um component once we like go further ahead and I explain everything like what particular value this is, what is this, everything else. All right. So for a order book, okay, how should I go about it? Okay, so basically what happens is there are two things that we have to make sure. I'll just delete everything for once. Okay. Delete everything. First of all, the most important thing is we have to find out a way to get this graph. Now, what is this graph? This shows the value of a particular trade. Now, what is a trade? A trade is any transaction in which we buy an asset using a particular currency. So, this is one type of trade, BTC, which is our base asset, and USD, which is our quote asset. So, what we do is for this particular trade, we have figured out a way of maintaining the value. I'll just do a little stop, like I'll wait for a second. Yeah, so really sorry about that, but we have to find out a way to get liquidity of this particular chart. Now, what is this chart? Right, what is liquidity? You may think. We'll go about it again, but basically, if you see, this chart shows the value of this particular trade. Now, for a trade, what is the value? How do we make a value? Right, these are the questions that are very justifiable and like these are bound to come. So this chart, which has all the trades in it, which has all the values in it, is coming from a thing called the order book. All right. So let me make the notes as well. It's coming from a thing called the order book, right? Now you must be thinking, okay, we built this trade, but how did we come about this number, right? Then for that we'll have to jump to not Binance API, but just Binance in general will work. Yeah. So there are multiple exchanges, right? It's not gonna be like there is only one exchange and that is uh, backpack. There are many exchange. Let me open a BTC one. So this is a BTC USDT exchange, and now I don't know that USDT is a token or like is it a currency. I think USDC is a currency, but I'll go about it, right? So what we do is we at the initial level there is this order book. Whenever a particular ask is present and a particular bid is present, and if they match, then a trade happens, and then on the basis of that the trade gets updated, and on the basis of the latest trade the value gets updated, right? Now you may be wondering, okay, imagine we have started the exchange and we don't have, like, we have an order book, but who are the people who are placing the orders right now? That's a very valid question. Who are the people who are asking for, you know, they are the people who are asking, and these are the people who are bidding for this particular asset. Like, where are these order book coming from? If I am a random person and I want to buy some, like, in with some currency, I want to buy some quantity of Bitcoin, how can I do it? Because there won't be an order, there won't be a number. Like, will this number always be present? Because as I said, the number comes when a trade happens. But if there is no trade, when there is no order book, like the order book is there but it is empty, then what is the value of it? It will be zero, right? Now this is where the market makers comes in. Whenever we build an exchange, at the initial part of it, we have what we call the market makers. We either fund them, we either give them money, or like either we ask them, okay, in our exchange we're gonna give you this XYZ amount of margin, we just want you to come here and put your money in it, uh, bid some, like buy some Solana, buy some Bitcoin and put it in here and like sell it for some spread and like make your money, like try to work on this platform. We also use spots, which is like what I think we are going to do, because we don't have access to any, you know, particular trader as such. So we just find out ways to fill this order book. Okay, now when there are a lot of order books, like the order book gets filled with orders, then what we do, we try to find out a way in which there is a matching engine, like there is a matching going on, which is called a matching engine, in which whenever a person who is bidding and whenever a person who is asking, the price matches, basically the bidding price and the asking price. When they match, that is the point of a trade, and that trade value is reflected as the current value of that particular trade. I hope it's understandable. So now this is what we are going to do. We are going to build this particular order book is highly important. This was the basic understanding of what a particular, like how do we get to this particular value, like what is the value of a trade and how we calculate it, how does a particular exchange get started, who are market makers, what is a bid, what is an ask, what is a quantity. I think quantity is pretty understandable, that I want this amount of BTC at this rate is what they mean by this particular line. All right, now trades contain all the trades that has happened recently, or like all the past trades. So this is something that we'll have to make in real time, because book and trades are the two things that we have to make in real time. I think even trades can, like we can do something about the trades, but like the most important thing is the book. We have to maintain the order book, and so for that I'll come back to what we have figured out. Then there is an option to buy this particular trade with the currency, or like buy this particular asset with the currency you have. You have the option to sell this particular currency at a particular price you want. Then there is, yeah, so then there is limit and market. Now you may be thinking, okay, now I've come to this particular section and I want to buy some Solana, or like for some BTC. What is the way to do it? All right, so we have two ways. Either we can be like, yeah, either we can be like, okay, I want 100 Bitcoin BTC in $60,000. I'm a millionaire and I want to have this. All right. Or I have the other way of saying, okay, so like $60,000 is like $6 million, right? On the other way, or like the other way of saying this would be, okay, I want to buy 66 million worth of BTC. Okay, what do we think about this, right? These are the two ways. Now you may be thinking, okay, Aditya, these seems like they are pretty similar, but they're not. In one particular condition, I'm saying, okay, I want 100 BTC, but the condition is I only want them at $60,000. Okay, let me make it something more realistic rather than just saying 60,000. So right now it's 8791, right? So imagine I want it at $8,700. All right, I want a difference or like margin of $91, and I want 100 Bitcoins at this rate. Okay. On the other hand, I have 8.07 million, yeah, worth of $1 million worth of BTC. Okay, in this particular scenario, all I'm trying to say is I don't care how much Bitcoin I get, just give me the like give me all the Bitcoins that I can buy of $8.07 million. Now, depending on the condition, imagine if this order books, like all this, imagine if a trade happens and all these orders they get empty and only 88.6 is like present, then I'll be getting less than 100 Bitcoin, right? In this case, I'm going to have 100 Bitcoins at $80700 only. But in this case, with the same amount of money, I'm going to have less 100 number of Bitcoins. It can be more as well. Depends if there is a particular order that is met, like order value doesn't met, much more lower, right? So these are the two things. In this particular scenario, we have set up the limit, and that's why it's called the limit. In this particular scenario, we are like, okay, I have the money, I just want to invest it directly, and that's why we are investing it directly. Okay, so limit is number of quantity at a particular value. This is the value. All right, market is different. I want xyz amount. Maybe I can shift it. Yes, so I have $8 million and I want this much BTC. Now we'll come back to this later. Now, yes, these are the two things that the limit and market have. Now you may be thinking, okay, Aditya, even if I have $8 million, right? I'm getting 99 BTC. That is a great thing. Then what is the problem? Like, why is market a problem? And for that, I would like to answer that market is not a problem. But there is one minute detail that we missed, and that is that if some big shark comes and eats up all the BTC orders that are present already, right? And imagine if someone new comes in and they're like, okay, I'm gonna sell it up in $90,000, then it would be a huge spread. And then the person who was assuming that for 8.7 million I'm going to have like around 100, maybe 99 BTC, but in now, like in particular scenario right now, I'm not gonna have that. I'm gonna have less, way lesser, like maybe 80 BTC. So this person will be like, oh my god, I got scammed. But that was not scam, that was his luck. Maybe the order book was maintained in that way right now, like in particular time in which all the investment at that particular time and the trade value got changed. When the trade value got changed, he had to buy it at that particular price. So to avoid this, even though we are saying, okay, I want to buy 8.07 million worth of BTC, we will configure this particular thing that we want this BTC, but at a particular price. Okay, at a particular price. Good. What is the particular price? You can put it anything, like maybe like, okay, I want it for $80,000, or like this is the maximum amount I'm willing to pay after this, or maybe like something like this. This is the maximum amount I'm willing to pay for one BTC. After this, don't buy me Bitcoin. So what will happen? It will show transaction failed. Now, what we realized from this particular scenario, it just told us that a particular market is a type of limit, because we don't want the person who is investing in the market to lose a lot of money or loot. Like, it should not have a very significant amount of slippage, because that would be brutal. So this is the way we maintain it. Now, there was one another term that I was mentioning. This liquidity is what the market makers bring in. This liquidity is what that is important, and I'll show you what I mean by that. What I mean by liquidity in general. So liquidity in a very lame terms is like, okay, is this item sellable at the actual price of the item or not? Now what I mean by this, okay, is this asset sellable at the actual price of the asset or not? So imagine if the actual price is going 87.81, right, and if my asset is sellable at that actual price, so like I can sell this particular asset for like around 8700 or maybe 8800, like $80,800, then that is a very liquid asset. It means that I can quickly sell it at the required or the closest to the actual price of the asset, right? But in the similar scenario, yeah, but in the similar scenario, there is low liquidity as well. And I'll tell you what is low liquidity. So, the liquidity is considered to be low if the asset is not sellable at the actual price of the asset. All right. All right. This is liquidity. This is market. And this is limit. Okay. So this is liquidity. Solana, no, not Solana, but like, okay, this is BTC to USDT. I'll change the market. Let's go to Solana maybe. Where is Sol? So this is a very highly liquid asset. Okay. Is the INR available? But you get my point. If the spread is very high, so what is the spread? The difference between the lowest, the highest bidder, and the lowest asker is the spread. Or should I say, if a person is putting up a ask for a particular asset, oh sorry, if a person bidded for a particular asset at X amount, and if a person is asking for that particular asset 1.1x amount, then that 0.1x is the spread. I hope that is clear. So the more the spread, the more the lesser the liquidity of that particular trade is. So this is all about the entire exchange working. Now we have done everything about the working. Let's deep dive into how to make the most important part of the entire exchange, and that is called the book, the order book. This is the most important part here. All right, I'll just quickly move aside a bit. I love to do this. Maybe I'll just quickly select this everything and then move it in a corner. All right, now we're gonna let's move this. How do I move this from here, man? Okay, this is a little below. Now again I'll select everything. I can select everything. and then I'm putting it in a corner. Great. Now, this order book is something that we need to maintain. As you can see, the values in it is changing in real time. We have to have the order book very fast. The reason for it is because if imagine if a person is saying, okay, this trade value is very nice, I want to buy XYZ amount of, and I want to invest XYZ amount of money in this, and I want to buy these particular quantity of this asset. Okay, great. Now, if the order book is not getting updated in real time, there might be a coincidence that happened, that in which this price is not reflected here, but 80,760 is displayed here. So when the person is bidding, he will see, oh my god, I got scammed maybe. I was not seeing the actual value, and that is very bad. We have to maintain the consistency of the data. We have to be super quick about it as well. To do this, we cannot use databases. The reason is databases are slow. When we put the data, then we fetch it back, it will take a lot of time. We can't do that. We don't have that much time. We have to quickly show as soon as the person clicks on the, like, okay, if I'm putting a certain limit over here and I put place my order, it should reflect quickly. It should not take a lot of time, right? To do this, what we need to do, basically, okay, I would say we need to have a particular case scenario in which the old order book is maintained in memory of the client. All right, or the server, I would say, not the client. Okay, in this architecture, what we do is exactly this is my client. I'll name it in a bit. This is my server. This is a queue. I'll let you know why we are building a queue as well. This is my order book. This is, okay, I'll come back. This is a queue again, which comes back to a WebSocket server, which goes back to the client. Oh, now why am I doing this? The reason for that is we need to have an execution way in which everything is getting quickly reflected on the client side, basically on the browser, basically. Now, oh my god. Okay, so now I'll just quickly put up the name. This is the client side. Okay, this is the client side. This is the server. This is so small, but this is the queue, which is going to be placed here also. This is the, okay, great, Aditya. This is the order book, and this is the WebSocket server. Alrighty, we are over here. So if you guys can see it properly, I'll just quickly let me do it, just quickly do it again. All right, so basically we'll hit a particular request from the client to the server, then that particular request will go into the queue. The reason for the queue is because, just think about it, we don't want any particular request to be fetched or completed before a particular request. We need to maintain a queue for that deterministic nature, okay, that this particular process will come after this particular process, this particular order was placed before this particular order, right? To maintain that, we need a queue. We need the order book to do all the matching. It has its own task. We'll come to it a little later. Then again, we'll have to put it into a queue so that the normal execution is always remembered. Then we put it back into the WebSocket, of which I've written the wrong spelling. And lastly, it goes back to the client and the data is getting reflected. All this is happening in milliseconds. Somewhere here, we are even trying to store all the order data in the DB as well, so that the consistency is maintained, and this is the way of doing it in a very fast manner. So both of our conditions are met over here. Now I have the option of either just explaining you the code bit entirely, and which I think I should do, because why not? Why not? Let's do it. All right. So this is a particular endpoint for making the order. This is how we will make the order. I am pretty sure that yesterday when I was discussing about this with Saksham, he told me that there is a very high chance that this particular thing we are having right now, we won't use it. The architecture would be different of the second class, so we will see how it is. But before that, I just wanted to quickly give you a run through of like what exactly the previous code looked like, even though it's not very necessary, but I feel like for a revisional point of view, and also for a base, like having a base fundamental setup of how the order book is working, we definitely need to have a look into this. I'll try to make it as brief. Is brief the right word? Wow. Wow. Brief meaning. Spelling is wrong. Short and yeah. So I'll try to keep it brief and quickly make everyone understand how it's working. All right. So we just jump right back into the main code. This is API v1 order endpoint. In this, firstly, we are passing it through a Zord validation. We can go through it. It's very simple. We just need to put a j.object, in which inside there will be multiple values, of which is j.string, j.number, enum, IOC enum, optional, which is going to be optional. I think it can be boolean also, but like for now it is optional, so great. Yeah. Okay. So then, if the parsing is correct, great, move forward. If not, then return. All right. We are gonna fetch base asset, quote asset, price asset, quantity, site, kind from order.data, and then we are going to put in, or like have an order ID from get order ID, which is just a random number generation right now. All right. Now, if base asset does not equal to base asset, because we know that, right, there is going to be a base asset, there is going to be a quote asset. Now base asset can be different, right? We can be trading at Solana, we can be trading in BTC, we can be trading in another type of cryptocurrency, so we cannot trust just, thank you so much, brother. Anyway, we cannot trust with just the normal base asset and the normal quote asset. We need to have a particular base asset, a particular cohort asset, which we are going to make, because this is for a particular order book, right? Okay. Okay. Now API v1 order. All right. This is base asset, code asset. Great. If there is a different base asset, so if there is not BTC but Solana, we will have something else. But if we have BTC, then we are going to move forward, which we are doing in this particular case scenario. Now we are going to use filled order, a particular function which takes in the order ID, the price, the quantity, the side, the kind. Okay, and it gives back executed quantity, like how much quantity of a particular asset was used, and the fills. Now fills is something that we won't be using a lot. It is again something that was told to me by who is a known football man. Sounds like someone I know, but let's not get distracted. Let's not get distracted. All right. You like this is definitely from my OG gang. Text me, brother, on WhatsApp. Who are you? Is this Norman Panicker? It's all right. Let's focus. Okay. So the fill order function is doing this, right? Now, what is the fill order function? It is firstly checking, do we even have the fill, like for a particular order. Imagine if I'm putting in, okay, I want 10 Solana for like $50. So this is the way of checking whether that particular quantity is available or not. So we are going to find out the max fill quantity, right? Now the function here was broken, as I remember it was, but it's like with yesterday's example, it is more like when Saksham was explaining this to me, it was like, okay, I went to a particular shopkeeper and I was like, all right, brother, I want 10 kgs of wheat or like flour, right? Now, does the person even have 10 kgs worth of that particular item that I'm asking? Does the particular person or the shopkeeper has 10 kg worth of flour that I want? That is the max fill quantity. If he has 100 kg, then the max fill quantity will be 100. If he has XYZ amount of kgs, then that particular quantity will be that, right? And this is for all the order price that are, I think these are for all the order price. Yeah, for all the order price that are less than the price that I am willing to pay. Okay, if I'm saying I want a particular ice cream, I want 10 ice creams of 50 rupees, and he might have 100 ice creams, but if they are not of, like, if no ice cream is of worth less than 50 rupees, then it's not gonna be, like, it won't be counted as a quantity, like, because I'm not gonna buy anything from him. But if there are 30, 40, 50 ice creams that are less than my price and the quantity is more, then I'm going to add it, right? And that is the max fill quantity, basically. Once we get the max fill quantity, then we are going to have a check. Now this IOC is immediate or cancel. Basically, either immediately put my money and buy something from the order ID, or just cancel my order, right? Now this is only possible if the max fill quantity is greater than the quantity. No, this is, oh sorry, yeah, this is only possible if the maximal quantity is greater than the quantity. So when will it not be possible? Immediately or cancel. When will it not be possible? When the maximal quantity will be less than the quantity, right? If I want to proceed, then I should, like, the quantity, like the shopkeeper should have xyz amount of ice cream. He should have 50 ice creams, 60 ice creams, 70 ice creams, and I should only demand for 10. But if he has less number of ice creams, then I won't be able to buy anything, so it will be rejected. And that is what is happening over here. If the max fill quantity, the maximum number of ice creams, is less than the ice creams that I want, is less than the quantity that I want, is going to is going to get rejected, right? Okay. But in this particular scenario, the shopkeeper does have a lot of ice cream, so we will proceed. Now, if the site is buy, okay, I want to buy the asset, then what is the particular asset from which I'm going to buy? I'm going to buy from the, or sorry, should I say, what particular order should I buy from? I'm going to buy from the asker. If I'm the bidder, I'm going to buy from the asker. And that's why, yeah, it's like order book dot ask for each order. Now, there are multiple orders in a particular exchange, right? If we can see over here, there are multiple orders. Okay. Now I can get X amount from this order. I can get X amount from this order. I can get X amount of from this order as well. So I need to figure out first, okay, how much quantity did I require from this order? Then I need to figure out how much quantity did I require from this order. For this, we have to go about all the orders until the quantity gets zero. Just a second. Yeah, sorry for the break. But I was like talking about how for my, like, if I want to have a lot of quantity, I'll have to go about it from one order, then to the next 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 order, until the quantity is zero, right? This is what we are gonna do. This is the code. Okay. There were two things that I mentioned, right? There will be a quantity run for each order, so that's why we are using for each loop for each order, right? And we are looping it till if the order quantity equal to 0. This is just the order quantity, but I'll I think, yeah, this is the main part, right? If the quantity does not equals to 0, then we need to push it. All right, even this is not exactly what I want to look in and like what that particular thing was all about, but eventually we'll get into it, and maybe with the cohort we will be able to figure out how to particularly fix this. All right, if the order price is less than or equal to price, because if I am the bidder who is having, imagine this price 747.6, and there is someone who is willing to sell it for 744.6, then yes, at first I'm going to buy that, and then after that I'll buy something else. So I'm going to buy something only when the order price is less than the price that I'm looking for. All right, great. So excuse me. So when the order price is less than equal to price and the quantity is greater than 0, this is pretty self-explanatory, I would say. Okay, so then we need to figure out firstly what is the filled quantity. Okay, now either the quantity that I am putting in or like I want would be less, or either the order for which I'm looking, like for this particular order to price, for this particular order this quantity will be less. If there is an ice cream that is of 20 rupees and it is 10 ice creams, and I want 50 ice creams, and like I'm willing to pay at max 50 rupees per ice cream, then either the minimum quantity will be the 10 ice creams that I'm having, like the user is having, or sorry, the shopkeeper is having, or the 50 ice creams that I am having, right? But out of these, yeah, out of these, the actual minimum or the filled quantity of that particular bid, of that particular order, will be the minimum amount, right? We will get that from filled quantity. Now order dot quantity equals to order dot quantity minus filled quantity. Now if it will be equal to order dot quantity, it will get 0. So this order will have no more quantity left, and then we can just directly say remove it from the order book. Great. Then book with quantity dot ask dot o dot price. So number of quantity available for the ask of the price that was mentioned is equal to book with quantity dot asks dot asks for that particular price minus the filled quantity. Okay, now if there are 20 rupees ice cream, it's not necessary it's coming from the same brand. It might be from Vadilal, it might be from Quality Walls, it might be from XYZ person, and the total math of it was 20, right? Now if we want to know how much of it is left, we'll have to remove it from the entire book with quantity, and that is what we are doing over here. So book with quantity of that particular price, we are going to remove that filled quantity from that. All right, now fills dot push is something we are doing for this particular session only, but we don't need to think about it a lot. Let's go further to executed quantity. Now executed quantity is going to be executed quantity plus the filled quantity, and executed quantity should be outside this particular loop. The reason for that is because each order's quantity will get added up. So like if I'm using up 0.2 from this, 0.03 from this, 0.065 from this, then each quantity will be removed and then it will be added. It will be removed, then it will be added to my particular executed quantity. Then quantity is equals to quantity minus fill quantity. Exactly, this was the thing I was thinking about. Because if I have now, if I wanted 50 Solana and I got 10 Solana at 20 rupees, I'll remove the quantity because at the end of the day, my aim was to get 50, but I got 10 already. So now how much I want? I want 40. So that's why we'll have quantity equals to quantity minus this. Now lastly, if the O dot quantity is equals to 0, we do this, we just remove it from the order. If book with quantity dot ask dot price equals to 0, we delete it from the book with quantity ask price as well. This is the entire logic of how we need to go about the order book. Now let's take a very short break, and then we will jump right back into the second cohort lecture, so the second lecture, and we'll try to figure out how to go about it. All right. Okay, I'll play some nice lo-fi music for a while and then we can go about it. Let's continue. So, till now, we have completely discussed about the entire architecture of exchange, which is this. Then we have discussed about what is a particular order book, which is this. And today we're gonna start building our project with Harkirat's cohort. Legendary guy, everyone. This is Cohort 2.0. Obviously, it contains a lot more videos. Definitely not gonna like you know put out his entire code because that's just
Morning.
wrong in general. But what I'm gonna do is just complete the exchange project on the live stream, and then we can go about it. Yeah. So let's go and let's start. This is part 2.
Local recording has started. Audio is working. Share screen. Alright guys. Today is probably the first class in after a long time in which we don't have slides. We are going to be building the front end from first principles for an exchange. The backend I've already sort of proxied somehow. So if you hit exchange proxy, proxy exchange.100xdevs.com. Yeah, if you hit exchange proxy.100xdevs.com, this is proxying requests to an exchange. So So you can assume, okay, we have the backend of an exchange, we'll be building the front end of the exchange, very similar to what you see here. What would you learn over here? Number one, you learn more about, how the backend of a system like this is written, understanding all these API. Number two, you'll understand, how you build these charts. TradingView, if you've heard of it, and it's free version. Most finance companies use the pro version of TradingView. If you go to, any exchange, the chart that you see here is slightly more sophisticated because it comes from a paid version of TradingView. We'll be using a free test version of TradingView. Most of it is built, and we'll go through it. Some of it is left as assignments. For example, if you go to a real exchange, you can see the order book. You can also see all the trades that have recently been executed. So, a few assignments will be there. Okay, if you have the depth over here, can you add another tab where you can see all the trades that have recently happened? First part is going to be just using HTTP, very simple, hitting a bunch of APIs on an exchange backend, getting the data, and then rendering it on screen like this. Second part of today's video is going to be making it real time. If you look at it.
Alright, so to go about this particular video, I think yesterday what I was doing was every time Harkirat was giving up a slide, I was trying to explain what the slide was all about. Today we can try a different method in which whenever Harkirat is going to take a break, we're going to try to wrap up everything that he has done so far. Alright, so we'll wait for his break and then we can continue.
The book over here will change very often. The order book will keep on changing as people, add and remove orders from here. This is a very liquid market. Maybe that's why we don't see a lot of activity. Let's open Solana. As you can see, this, book changes in real time. This price over here will also change in real time. The number of trades that are happening will also come in real time. So we will try to hit the backend, assume the backend of the exchange exists. For example, if I open the network tab here, there are a bunch of requests that go out to, let's say, let's look at one request. Find a good one. Trades. A request went out to api.backpack.exchange/API v1 trades $symbol equal to Sol USDC, and this returned the recent set of trades. Or since the limit was 1 over here, it just returned one recent trade over here. How can we hit a similar API? If you replace the base URL with exchange proxy.100xdevs.com, you will see a similar response being returned to you. Which basically means all the recent trades here. How can you hit that and reverse engineer either a front end of an existing website? For example, here the front end looks like this. You can actually reverse engineer it and build something very similar, because front ends are open. You can always read the code of a front end. If I inspect element here, I can read through what tailwind classes are being used here and bring them to my UI. Or if they're written in a different framework, they might be using Material UI, in which case I can just look at the CSS over here and try to copy it over. The first rule of thumb usually is, if you don't have a designer, just look at the biggest competitor that's out there and just copy over the UI, slap the same thing on your front end, and then eventually you can hire a designer build on top of it. Even when you do hire a designer, they will give you a Figma file. The Figma file will have all the styles for everything that's here, so you can copy over them. That is what today is going to be. Part 1 is going to be building a static front end. By static I mean it still works for all the markets. If I open a different market, let's say Shuffle USDC here on my localhost colon 3000, let me quickly run it. Then I will see all the data for Shuffle. The backend isn't written by us yet, but our front end is hitting someone else's backend and rendering. It's like another UI for an exchange. You can also build your own set of UIs that look like different exchanges. For example, in Cohort-1, someone was, when we were interviewing at an exchange, someone built almost exactly the Binance UI. I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it before the class, but he literally copied over the markets UI of Binance and hit their APIs, basically built an alternate front end for that backend. That's what we're doing today. This is the static front end. By static I mean this price isn't changing in real time. This depth isn't changing in real time, versus here it does. So the second part of today's video is going to be, how can you hit the WebSocket server of this backend? I repeat, this backend has a WebSocket server. If I scroll up a bit here, let's see if I can quickly find it. Wasn't able to find it the first time. Let me try one more time. There you go. ws.backpack.exchange. How can you connect to this WebSocket server? How can you start to receive all of these messages? And then also update the depth over here, the chart over here, the price over here, so on and so forth. Cool. The code is already present on github.com/100xdevs cohort2/week 30 order book 1. Yesterday, we discussed the backend a bit. We wrote a order book of our own, this thing right here. We wrote a little bit of the backend. That code is present on day 1. Today we're on day 2. This has 3 front ends right here. Ignore exchange proxy. This is just the code to proxy the request to another exchange. If you want to look at it, feel free to. This is how I've written, this specific backend that is proxying a request to another exchange. These two are what we'll be going through today. The Binance front end, which is the first part, and then Binance front end real time, which is going to be the second part. All right. You can code along if you want. You can clone the repo and go through it as well. Doesn't matter. It's fairly simple front end code. So, I'll just be going through the code and taking you through it from first principles. In the end, I have a bunch of these assignments. We will try to actually write code and, do these assignments. What are these assignments? For example, the depth data isn't real time. This depth that you see that changes over here does not change on this website, even in the Binance frontend real time folder. So how can you, given that a little bit of WebSocket connection has been made, how can you update this depth chart? How can you update this chart right here? How can you get all the recent trades? And that's what a lot of these assignments are going to be. Let's get right into it. I would urge you to, if you want, just clone this week 30 order book 1 repository locally. So you can run it locally and, make some changes locally, try to understand what's happening. Again, it's fairly simple, tailwind logic that we've written. Give you guys like a minute or so. Please clone this repository and open this locally. And then maybe try to run it as well. Okay? Take 30 seconds to clone it. How do you clone a repository? I'm assuming we know by now. We're at week 30 of the cohort. So just clone the repository, open it in Visual Studio Code. I'll wait 30 seconds, then we'll go from there.
Basically need to clone the repository, but I'm very skeptic of it because I wanted to build this exchange entirely. So let's see. Maybe I will. Let's just do it.
Backend will be done. Some part of it maybe today, most probably not. Probably either an offline video if I get time. Hopefully, if I don't, then yes, it'll be done next week. Yeah, but I'll try to structure it in a few videos and try to do it offline. We will see. Only time will tell. Depends on how busy the next week is. If you remember the class from yesterday, the architecture that we discussed, fairly complex. If you remember the architecture that we went through, was this thing right here. We'll build something very close, not exactly this. Such an architecture, I realized this yesterday, is only needed if you're building a crypto exchange. Why, Harkirat, what is different in a crypto exchange? The different thing in a crypto exchange is you are actually running multiple order books. There's order book, Tata INR order book running on one AWS cloud, and then the same Tata INR order book running on another GCP cloud, and then the same running on another DigitalOcean cloud. And all three of them reconcile whenever someone withdraws crypto to make sure if one of your, let's say, engineer goes rogue, they are not able to withdraw the balance of a different user. So that is why you have to build such a complicated architecture. You can actually simplify this a bit. If even if your engineer goes rogue, even if your engineer does something weird in the database, the government will come and help you out. In a Web 2 exchange, a lot of problems don't come in a Web 3 exchange, which is why the backend architecture can actually be made slightly simpler. You don't have to do all of this. But this also is an interesting architecture. I was going through the code yesterday of a bunch of these exchanges, and I realized you can actually get rid of this queue in the middle in case you're building a Web 2 exchange, because Web 2 exchange mein, an engineer can't really take your Tata shares. But in a Web 3 exchange, if an engineer goes rogue, they can literally pull out all the Bitcoin and keep them for themselves. All right. Hopefully you've cloned this. Run yarn dev on the Binance frontend folder. If a lot of people are running it, maybe the exchange proxy gets rate limited. We will see, because we're proxying a lot of requests from here to the exchange. So the exchange might rate limit this specific server, might not as well. We will see. Why are we proxying these requests through our own server? Because of some CORS issues. If you directly try to hit, the exchange API from the browser will give you some CORS issues, which is why we're proxying it from here. I've removed all CORS restrictions from this exchange proxy.100xsteps.com. From first principles, how did I build this yesterday? It took me like 2 hours to build this yesterday. That is because I've done this a few times now, but also because if you look at a front end and if you want to copy it over, it's not too difficult to do, because you can look at all the CSS of everything that's on here. If you want to copy over this front end, for example, this deposit button, we've copied over from here. How can you do that? You can inspect this specific button and look at the CSS of the deposit button. If I click on inspect, I reach this exact button. This is you can literally just copy this and bring this into your code base, because we are also using Tailwind. Whenever you bootstrap Next.js, it has Tailwind by default. This is also using a bunch of Tailwind classes. So here you can literally copy the thing and paste it in your code. Now here there are some custom Tailwind classes. For example, if you look at it, Let's see if we can find some custom bg-green text is a custom Tailwind class. So how can you bring a custom Tailwind class to your Tailwind configuration is something we will learn. But if you copy this as such, you will not see a green color. I repeat, if I just copy this and paste this over to my own code base, which you can, as you can see, I can just copy this and paste it to my code base. There are a few custom Tailwind classes here. One of them being this text-green text or bg-green text. So how can you either replace this with bg-green-500, which is a real Tailwind class? This is a real Tailwind class, right? If I go to Tailwind background color, I can see bg-green-100 bring. So this is the background color I need to bring to my Tailwind configuration. How can you update your Tailwind configuration? Just go to tailwind.config.ts and here you can add a bunch of, background colors, border colors, background images, so on and so forth. This is where, you can add custom Tailwind classes. Cool. That's the only extra thing if you're ever copying code from another website or, trying to reverse engineer the front end of another website. Now, if this website was not using Tailwind, then our life would have been much harder. Then we would have had to, inspect and then copying over just like this wouldn't have worked. I would have had to go to the CSS, figured out that this color is this, and then, replace the color in my local machine. Cool. Let's look at all the components one by one. The most difficult components here are this order book component and this component, the trading view chart component. Before building any such components, the first thing I did was I went to this website, opened the network tab and looked at all the requests that go out. To pre-fill all of this data, what all requests are going out? And I realized that one request was going out to get the depth, get the bids and the asks. Now, if you don't know what bid, get the all figured out that this color is this, and then, it's one by one. The most difficult components here are this order book component and this component, the trading view chart component. Before building any such components, the first thing I did was I went to this website, opened the network tab and looked at all the requests that go out. To pre-fill all of this data, what all requests are going out. And I realized that one request was going out to get the depth, get the bids and the asks. Now, if you don't know what bids and asks are, you will have to go to yesterday's videos. But these are, a bunch of open orders that are currently existing on this exchange. How can I look at them? If you look at all the requests that go out, there will be a request to, for example, /tickers, /trades, /depth. If you look at the /depth endpoint, it gives you a bunch of asks. For bids here, a bunch of asks on this specific order book and a bunch of bids on this specific order book. So how would I build this specific component? How would I bring this to my own code base? Or, if I want to write it myself also, if I want to create an exchange myself also, how would I build it? I would first create this endpoint, expose this endpoint so that my front end can hit it. Now it is already exposed to us where? On exchange-proxy.100xsteps.com/ whatever API v1 depth / symbol equal to the market that you're hitting. Question is, how can you render this? If you go to the components, if you go to the /trade/ front end can hit trades. How can I look at them? I know to get the depth, get the bids and the asks. Now, if you don't know what bids and asks are, you will have to go to yesterday's videos. But these are, a bunch of open orders that are currently existing on this exchange. How can I look at them? If you look at all the requests that go out, there will be a request to, for example, /tickers, /trades, /depth. If you look at the /depth endpoint, it gives you a bunch of asks. So for bids here, a bunch of asks on this specific order book and a bunch of bids on this specific order book. So how would I build this specific component? How would I bring this to my own code base? Or, if I want to write it myself also, if I want to create an exchange myself also, how would I build it? I would first create this endpoint, expose this endpoint so that my front end can hit it. Now it is already exposed to us where? On exchange-proxy.100xsteps.com/ whatever API v1 depth / symbol equal to the market that you're hitting. Question is, how can you render this? If you go to the components, If you go to the /trade/page.tsx in Binance frontend, ignore Binance frontend real time for now. We'll get to that soon enough. First, let's look at Binance frontend. This is what the page looks like. What does it render? It renders number one, this market bar, this bar that you see right here. This logic renders this specific bar. Then it renders the trading view chart, which is this chart that you see right here. Then it renders the depth, which is this thing right here. We look at the code of this very soon. And lastly, we render a swap UI. The structure, if you look at this, the way I've used Flexbox to structure all three of these boxes right next to each other is also, something I copied over from here. If you look at it, how have they structured the three horizontal boxes, the trading view chart here, the middle depth chart here, and the swap UI here? They've used Flexbox to, let's see. First defined a top level flex div, which has two children, this child right here on the left, and this child right here on the right. Same thing we have done in our code base. If you look at it, we have defined a top level div, which has two children. This is the first child, and then this is the second child. There is a divider between them in the middle. This line over here of, width 1 pixel just divides this guy and this guy. And if you look at the code of this div, this also is two boxes right next to each other by using Flexbox. What have I done? Okay, this trading view and this depth need to be right next to each other. So I used Flexbox over here to, position them right next to each other. Hopefully this is straightforward. And, CSS that we've done in the past. Again, to go through the CSS, what have we done? We have defined a top level div with display set to flex. What will that do? That will position both of these children right next to each other. And then the first child, maybe we've also again defined flex equal to true. Not here. Here, this too has flex dash call, which means, the market bar will first appear here. And then both of these will be placed right next to each other. I repeat, the market bar and then both the children below it are vertically placed. Flex and flex call means place one below the other. Market bar is this thing right here. And then, the thing below it again uses Flexbox to first enter the first child and then render the second child, divide them in the middle.
My bad. But if I just, it's too basic right now, everything. What Harkirat has told so far, and I'm doing this because even I will get confused and I'll start losing interest in this. What he has been trying to do is give us a way of figuring out, okay, if I want to make this site, right? If I want to make this application, how will I make it? Like, what is the approach that I'm going to take, right? Now, firstly, we always need to figure out, okay, what are the network, or like what are the data that is coming from the backend, and what is this hitting, like what is this hitting basically the front end UI, whatever. So we will go into the network section. We'll only click on the fetch XHR and then we'll reload. Now we see a lot of oh my god. So these are a lot of HTTP endpoints. Okay. So out of these, at least in the video, he showed that how the tickers, the trades, and there should be something called the depth. There is this orders. I think some of them has been changed and it has been changed into orders. Maybe I should just click on the orders and just click on this then. Okay, this is empty. Depth, yep, this was depth. Now if we click on it, we see a lot of data. So this is the data that we are for asks, and there will be something called bids in it as well. So if I try to bids, this is bids, this is bids, and this is asks. So now going about everything right now, we have this, we have the asks. So we know that we need to hit this particular endpoint and all these other endpoints as well, even though right now I don't know how Harkirat was able to know. So okay, user I'll not use, definitely warning status, all these things. Prediction is something that we are not doing so far, but maybe it is something that we can use in the future. These market resolved. Okay, I think this prediction is getting fetched and stored in somewhere down. Hmm. Okay, I think this is the fill history. Oh, oh my. Okay. So there must be somewhere in this entire thing, maybe in the market info. I don't know where is prediction, to be honest. Okay, there is no prediction over here, but basically there is something called the prediction which is getting us this data, which is predicting what is going to happen to a particular asset, I think. Yeah, yes. So this is another endpoint that we're hitting. Then there is the markets endpoint, API backpack exchange, API wheel, online markets. What is this exactly? Okay, I don't know, but like I think these are all the things that I need to link. Whenever I would be building everything from the first principle, these are the endpoints that I'll need to look into, and where are this data? Where is this data getting stored in this particular UI? And for the UI part, you can again just go into inspect, and yeah, even if I want this button, yep, in this somewhere, in this, yes, in this specifically, now in this, yes, and then this, again open it. So figured out a way to find out where the button is. So this is not something that we need to look into. Yep, I think if I just do this instead, now I should. This is okay. This is not getting, because this is a deposit button. All right, the deposit button has been gone. Yeah, this is a deposit button which was hidden. Now it is visible. See, so basically for the UI also, if we are going to build something from very scratch, we can just directly take it from the inspect page and just copy and paste it. This is what basically Harkirat was telling till now. I hope he was not telling something else important, because I was not able to figure anything else out. But let's go and continue further.
by using a vertical line. This
I think something is going on with my entire connection right now, but to be honest, it's all right. I can just continue. So I'll do that. Let's just continue and see what Harkirat builds after this.
and this, divide them in the middle by using a vertical line. Hopefully that's straightforward. And if you've done basic tailwind by now, you understand how we have positioned these three elements right next to each other. The most important thing here is this depth component. You can independently render this as well. This depth component takes a market as an input. What is a market? Sol USDC. And this needs to get all the data from the backend and then render a chart that looks something like this. Let's look at what happens when this gets rendered. Now we are using Next.js, so we can use server-side rendering. But just because here client-side rendering is used, and let's say if you want to move from here to React, you can use you can send these requests from the front end. If you want to do server-side rendering, you can do that as well. This is just a simpler React-like version of this component. If you want, you can also convert this into an async component and do server-side rendering, get the depth and get the ticker on the Next.js backend itself. You don't have to do client-side rendering. What is happening right now? What is happening right now is if you visit this specific front end, requests go out to /ticker/trades/depth from the front end. I repeat, there's a top level use effect in this component which gets the depth, gets the tickers, gets the trades on the front end itself. If I want, I can move all three of these here and make this an async component and be something like const depth equal to await get depth. This way, this request will go out on the server. This will become a server component. All right, cool. Harkirat, what does the get depth function do? Can you guess? All of these functions have been defined in a file called http-client.ts. This is the very first file that I created. When I started to build this yesterday, the very first file that I initialized an empty Next.js project, I created a folder here called utils, inside which I created http client. Here, I wrote 4 functions. Get ticker, get the details of a specific ticker. Ticker means, what is the current price of shuffle, for example. Get tickers, get all the current markets that exist. Why would we need this get tickers function? Because eventually you would want to build this markets page where you see all of the markets and hence you want to see all the current tickers, their price, so on and so forth. Get depth. This is the function, as you can see. What is it doing? It is sending a request to base URL /depth symbol equal to market. What's to get what is the current price of shuffle, for example. Get tickers, get all the current markets that exist. Why would we need this get tickers function? Because eventually you would want to build this markets page where you see all of the markets and hence you want to see all the current tickers, their price, so on and so forth. Get depth. This is the function, as you can see. What is it doing? It is sending a request to base URL /depth symbol equal to market. What happens when I send a request to exchangeproxy.100xf.com /API/v1/depth symbol equal to this thing? I get all the bids and the asks, right? So that is exactly what this function does. I've also defined the types of what these guys return. I'm like, यार मुझे पता है, I know for a fact that this returns data of this shape. Okay, the asks are an array of tuples. I repeat, it's an array of tuples. What is a tuple? An array with 2 values. So it is an array, the first value of which, it's pretty written this. It is an array, the first value of which has 2 values, the second value of which has 2 values, so on and so forth. So I've defined this shape in my TypeScript file here. Here the depth response looks something like this. The bids are an array of tuples. I repeat, this is an array of 2 values. What does this thing represent? An array of 2 values. And what is bids? It is an array of that. It is an array of 2 values, right? Which is why, what is the type over here? You open this on the right, open this on the left. What does this function return? What is the type of what this function returns? It returns bids and asks. If you look at asks, it is an array of tuples, which means the first value here is going to be an array with 2 values. The second value here is going to be an array with 2 values, so on and so forth. This I've just done to make my life easier later on. You can also just write any over here. It just makes your life much easier when you are using this function in a component. When I'm getting the real depth over here, I can use TypeScript and understand if I'm doing the right things, which is why I've defined a type over here. Similarly, get trades will get you all the recent trades that have happened on a specific market so that you can render them over here. You can get the recent trades and render them. And lastly, get K lines. This is something new. This represents all the chart data. We'll go through the chart data very soon and how trading view charts work. Trading view has sort of become the norm. Everyone uses them. And if you look at it, it really is a bunch of candles. Here at this specific timestamp, this was the highest the price went. This was the lowest the price went. This is where it opened. And this is where this hour closed. So the price went up by a bit. And then this hour opened over here, closed over here. Minimum and maximum is also this. So if you look at it, there's some hard minimum and maximum. And then sometimes there is a line that comes out, which basically means during this hour, the price did go up by this, but eventually, this is where the market closed at this specific hour. So it's basically a bunch of candles that you get back from the backend. If I, hit this specific endpoint, let's say on the exchange proxy, I have to send it a bunch of things. Let's hit this endpoint from the backpack exchange. Pretty print. Here, as you can see, it gives me a bunch of candles. Okay, the close the price at which this specific interval closed was this, the price at which this specific interval opened was this was the lowest the price went during this interval, this was the highest the price went during this interval. As long as you have a bunch of this candle data, you can feed it to the TradingView library. It just takes care of creating these candles for you. Can you write it yourself? Yes. TradingView is a very big company. If you can create an open source version of TradingView, it's a good idea to build, generally like a fun project to build. Given you have all of these wick data, all of these candle data, how can you build a library like this that renders it this way? This thing that you see at the bottom is just volumes, how much volume was happening, as how many people traded during that specific time. This also, if you look at it, the candle data returns you the volume during this interval was, let's say, this much sold. All right, that is the brief of the backend endpoints that we hit, the basic HTTP client that we have created. Now we'll just use a bunch of them to render them on screen. Let's look at depth again, which is there are just two difficult components here. I'm assuming everything else is straightforward, which is this depth chart right here and the TradingView chart right here. This top bar is fairly simple and this is fairly simple. The depth chart hits the depth endpoint, gets the bids and the asks. What does the get depth function do? Firstly, where does this run? It runs inside a use effect, which means whenever this component renders, all of these functions would run. What all are we doing in these functions? We're getting the depth and setting bids and the asks. These two state variables we are setting so that we can eventually use them to render like a asks table and a bids table. If you look at the final render over here, what does it say? It says, I want to render the table header, which is, price, size, and total. I want to render all the asks, which is, all these asks right here. I want to render the current price, which is this price right here. And then I want to render all the bids, which is everything right here. Hopefully that's, straightforward. Let's do a quick poll in like 5 minutes. Let me take you through the depth component really quickly. We set the bids, we set the asks after this function. Now if this function crashes, we should put it inside a try catch. We should show the user an error. We're just assuming the backend endpoint works. Get ticker gets all the details of this specific market. Why? Because we need this price, right? We need to set this price and show this in the depth chart, which is why we get the details of a ticker, which gives you, it basically gives you all of this, but we are just interested in this thing right here. So we get the current price and set it over here in this price variable. We get the trades. You don't need this. You will need this eventually when you create the trades tab, but right now, since we don't, we can just ignore this trades request. This will pre-fill this data and then you eventually render it. Table header, if you look at it, it's simply a div, flex, justify between, which means equal space between all three of them, and small size text, price, size, and total. It just renders these three things right here. And then if you look at the asks table, here is where there is a lot of logic. The reason there is a lot of logic is because you need to make sure, as you can see, there are three fields here. This is the price at which an ask has been created. This is the total quantity for which it has been created. And this is the total, which means as you keep going up, it keeps on getting added. 0.3 plus 0.05 is equal to 0.35. 0.3 plus 0.05 plus 3.45 equal to this. The total that you see on the right just gives you an idea of how much liquidity exists on both the sides, how many people are willing to sell, how many people are willing to buy. So this total field is something you have to calculate yourself. The backend does not return you the total field. The backend returned you, if you remember, a tuple. It returned you a price and a size. What is this slash depth endpoint return you? It returns you, here at this price, this much quantity is available. At this price, this much quantity is available, so on and so forth. You have to write some extra logic to calculate, the total field right here, which goes up as you go up over here. It goes up as you go down over here. Where did the UI go? Let's look at how I do that. I've written some, very quick hacky logic. You can also always, optimize this if you think there's a better way to do it. Another thing you have to keep in mind is, that the bids are sorted correctly and the asks are sorted correctly. The best ask is present here. What is this? Yeah, this is the least amount at which someone is willing to sell. 134.05 se niche, no one is selling. 134. Oh boy, have I reversed this? That looks right. Oh, 134. Okay. 134.05 se niche, no one is selling. And then this is wrong, isn't it? I mean, quickly look at it. So, yes, this is reversed. 0533. Yeah, we've definitely written the wrong logic. I've either swapped the bids and the asks, or I've just reversed them incorrectly. 133.45. Yeah, I probably just need to reverse this thing right here, which should be. That looks right. Yeah. That looks almost right. The totals are messed up now. Here comes the first assignment for today. Let's quickly do a poll first. There's a buggy logic here, which I just fixed, but that messed up the totals. As you can see, the totals are now increasing from here, even though they should be increasing from here. The bids and asks are right. The person who's willing to buy is at max giving 133.44. The person who's willing to sell is saying, I won't sell for less than 133.45. A question you might ask is, Harkirat, how is the price 133.47? If the best bid is this, if the best ask is this, how is the price 133.47? And the answer is because on this exchange, this is the price on which the last trade happened and the market moved after it. Just because the current bid is this and current ask is this does not mean that the price cannot be 133.47. The price can still be 133.47 because the last trade when it happened, the book might be different. When the last trade happened, the bids might be starting from here and the asks might be starting from here. The trade happened then. Uske baad, if the book has moved and there aren't a lot of trading like trades that are happening, the price is still weird. Price is still 133.47 even though the book has moved, and the best price to buy now is much lesser than this. You can buy it at 133.45 now. Let's do a quick poll and see how are we doing. And then, I think we have the first assignment for today, which gives us, hopefully gives you some, get your hands dirty and build this yourself kind of a thing. I can also proceed if need be. Okay, 89%, great. 85%, 86%, great, cool. All right, let's maybe try to solve this together. Okay, what is the problem?
So far, what's been going on is very simple. We just need to initialize a React project, initialize a front-end project. In that, add a utils folder. In the utils folder, you need to make an HTTP file, which would be a TypeScript file, which will contain all the expos to all the endpoints that were mentioned in the when we were inspecting up the exchange, normal exchange site, right, to get the proxy data. Yeah, that's about it, I guess. And then there was this bug in this particular order book, which now we're gonna solve. Yeah, that's it. Let's continue.
The depth should look like this. It is, what is this? Basically, this red candles are wrong. The total field over here is wrong. As you go down, total should go up. Let's quickly understand what the order book is one more time. This is, someone is saying, okay, I will buy for 133.44. मैं उससे ज़्यादा नहीं दूंगा. And then someone is saying, okay, I will buy for 133.43, 42, 41. And the green that you see keep on getting added is the total amount that is available greater than equal to that price. If someone wants to sell for 133.42, they can buy 55.64, which includes, they will eat up this, this, and this. The question is on the other side, the prices are right, 133.45, 46, 47. The asks are going up in price, but the total is incorrect. Total should start from here. 311. Why do I feel this is still wrong? Like it was right before. 4343536. It should go up, right? 454647. 313233. That looks right. Yes. Question is, the totals are basically incorrect, right? So let's look at the logic. What does the logic say? Pehle get all the relevant asks. You get a bunch of asks from the backend. The backend returns can return you like 100 asks and 100 bids. You want to just get the best 15 asks and the best 15 bids. You just want to render, let's say 15 values here, 15 values here. You don't care about rendering a lot of values. So we first get all the relevant asks. Then if you log the relevant asks over here, they might be, flipped, by which I mean, they are sorted in the opposite direction. You would see 78 over here, 60 over here, so on and so forth. You can log it and see what format you get the relevant asks in. Let's quickly log relevant asks and see what format we get it in. Can I refresh? It shows me, 133.87, 78, 67. It is going down as time goes by. This is the same format in which I want it rendered from top to bottom, right? So do I need to reverse this? If I'm rendering, they'll go one below the other. Let's say I don't reverse this over here. If I don't reverse this, then I see them in the opposite fashion. Even though 25, 26, 27, that was right. You do need to reverse them because you get them in the sorted fashion. You get them in a sorted fashion. I reversed them, which is why you see them in the right fashion now. 67, 64, 51, 543, so on and so forth. The question is, how is the total field calculated? This total field is calculated incorrectly right now. If you look at it, the logic says, asks with total is relevant asks.map. Now here is some DSA logic. Current total plus equal to number of quantity. This logic is incorrect. This logic will put the total as 1.49 here, and then 1.49 plus 367 here, and plus this thing here, so on and so forth. So you have to fix this logic. Let me write a quick version of fixing this, and then you can always fix this better if you want. In the interest of time, let me quickly write some very basic for loop and fix this how I would. For let I equal to relevant asks dot length. I'm starting from the end of the array, I greater than equal to 0, I minus minus. And here I will do const price with this thing. That looks right. I'm iterating over the relevant asks array from the bottom. What do I want? I want I iterate over it from the bottom. Yeah, you will get a value of 0.82. Then the next one will get a value of 0.82 plus 97.43, so on and so forth. So I iterate from the bottom. Let's see what the error is. 0 I minus minus price comma quantity equal to relevant asks of I, which gives us an error that says undefined is not iterable. Relevant asks of I is undefined because there will be minus 1 over here. If I refresh now, still looks wrong. I push. I don't have to push. I have to push towards the end of the array. How do you push towards the end of an array? Or I can just do a ask with total. Yeah, there we go. All right, there we go. What did I do? I iterated from the bottom of the relevant asks. I iterated from the bottom here. First one I gave 0.83. What will happen in the first iteration? The current total plus equal to the quantity of this specific ask. So in the first iteration, 0.83 will become the value here. In the second iteration, we will get to this row right here because we're starting from the bottom. Add 19, add 109, add 37, so on and so forth. And then since I'm pushing to the beginning of this array, I repeat, I'm pushing to the beginning of this array. If the original array looked like this, the asks with bids array would look like this, 4, 3, 2, 1, which is why I just reversed it over here so that it again becomes 1, 2, 3, 4. And that fixed it. Nahi samajh aaya? Let's do a quick poll. This was just something that should have been fixed before the class only. Let's do a quick poll and see if you understand. We would have been able to do it ourselves if we read through it ourselves. These are things, if you do it yourself and debug yourself, it's better to do. I can explain, but generally better if you try this yourself. I'm sure if you try this yourself, it's easier to do than understanding, oh, this is Harkirat is doing it. Basic data structures and algorithms. Let's do a quick poll. Hmm. 75%. Pseudocode needed. All right, let's do some pseudocode, right? This is what the backend returned us, let's say. The relevant asks that the backend returned us are sorted. I repeat, this is what they look like. At 132.97, this much quantity is available. At 132.96, let's say 3 is available. 95. 9. All right. Quick breather, guys. For people who already understood, feel free to take a breather. 5 more minutes, let me explain this, then we'll move on. The only other interesting thing after this is TradingView and WebSocket logic. All right, this is what the backend returns us. You would expect the backend to return you sorted data, right? If you look at the asks over here on this specific endpoint, you will see they're going up by price. 36, 37, 38, so on and so forth. But how do we want to render them? We want to render them like this, 37, 38, 39. Asks go up as you go up. But the backend returned us ऊपर से नीचे तक. This is the smallest. This is slightly better. This is slightly better. So what did I do? First, I took the first 15 of these. Yeah, the first 15 will be relevant for me. First, will the first 15 be relevant for me? What I'm thinking. It might happen that needs 15. What am I missing here? Asks 0.2366. Sorry, I'm doing too much live debugging. Let me explain the pseudocode and let's move on. I first reverse this specific relevant asks so that this becomes this. It gets sorted from top to bottom. That is what this line of code does. And then I initialize an empty array, iterate over this from the end, which means I first get this one and इसको assign कि your total quantity is 10. Then I go to the next one and I इसको assign कि your total quantity is 15, 10 plus 5. Then I go to this one and इसको assign your total quantity is 18. And then lastly reach over here and I say your total quantity is whatever, let's say 270. 253 plus 18 is close to 270, right? This is what my array becomes. This is what my array should have become after this for loop. But since I started from the bottom, took this value and pushed it to the array, it became this. It again got reversed. I started from the end. I started from here, found the first total and pushed it to a new array. So this again moved to the beginning of the array. Then I started from the end, pushed it to the beginning of the array. Started from the end, pushed it to the beginning of the array. And then finally reached I equal to 0. I finally reached I equal to 0, pushed it to the end of the array. And hence this array got reversed over here, which is why I had to do one final reverse. So that it again finally gets rendered. This is the biggest and then slightly smaller and then slightly smaller and then the smallest. That is how, by the end of it, the smallest one exists over here. And this is the one that you have the quantity for here. And as you keep going up, it keeps on getting better. This logic is slightly easier on the bids side because the backend returns you them in a sorted fashion. You can just reverse and add them up. Since we had to add them up in the reverse fashion over here, if this is what the array looks like, last wali value pe pehle add karo, then go up and then add, and then go up and then add. The logic was slightly complicated. Let's look at the bids. Let's look at this array right here and how the total logic is calculated over here. If I go to bids table.tsx, here also we first get the relevant bids. Give me the first 15 bids. I don't want to render everything over here. Then let's log these relevant bits. Let's remove all the logs from here. If I refresh, look at the console. The relevant bits are 65, 63, 62, 61. As you keep going down, they keep on going lower. How do I want to render this? As you keep going down, I want to keep on getting lower. So the backend returns them to me in the right format. And also the total calculating logic also starts from 0. And as you keep going down, you keep on adding to this total field. Hence, the logic to calculate bids with the total is as simple as kya jo bids thi tumhare paas. Take the price, take the quantity, and the third field is current total plus equal to quantity. The quantity that came in this specific row, add that to current total. That is how you can simply calculate bids with total here, because you don't have to calculate the total up the chain, you have to calculate the total down the chain. So this is the 0th value, yahan pe you put 94. This is the 1st value of the array, yahan pe you put 94 plus 96, yahan pe you put 186 plus 37, so on and so forth. You calculate the totals, and then eventually you just iterate over them and render them using this bid component. What does this bid component do? It renders the price, the quantity, and the total, but it also adds one more thing. It adds this extra green over here, which is just a excuse me, it's just a div that's absolutely positioned, the width of which is the total until this point divided by maximum total. It is 1% over here, 5% over here, 6% over here, 30% over here, 50% over here. There is an absolutely positioned div that we have put, the width of which keeps on going bigger and bigger as you keep going down, or based on this total field over here. Do we understand how individual bids are rendered and how we calculate the total for the bids, which as you can see is slightly easier than calculating for the asks? Let's do a quick poll. I still feel there's a small bug here in the ask table. I feel this slicing is done incorrectly. I'm moving on for now because it just looks fine on the UI, but I have a feeling this is wrong. But either way, 84% is great. I will take doubts at the end. Let's quickly go through the trading chart. This is actually the most difficult one because it had all of this mathematical logic. This just get the data from the backend, shove it into a library that TradingView provides you. TradingView mostly provides you paid APIs. I think even if you use their free API, you have some sort of limits or stage of company you need to be in. If you're early, you can use their free API, but generally most finance companies pay them. Their actual charting library is also hidden. You can't find it on GitHub. You have to mail them, and they provide you that library, and then you can use it. Their free library is called, if I go to package.json here, their free library is called lightweight charts, and if you give it candle data, it will just render it for you. Let's look at this specific component and how it is rendered. If I go to trade/market/page.tsx, we have looked at the depth component. We are now looking at the trade view component. If I open this, what does it do? So I think we've discussed refs. If not, let me quickly give you like a 2-second of what refs are. Refs let you do two things. Number one, they let you attach to a div element. If you ever want to do, ID equal to, let's say, chart, and if you ever want to do document.get element by ID chart and get, the underlying DOM element, the better way to do this, you can still do this in React, although you probably shouldn't, because you won't get things like, the use effect re-rendering whenever this dependency changes. The better way to do this is use the useRef hook. I repeat, use the useRef hook that React provides you. If you ever want to get a reference,
I think it's majorly UI, so I can wrap this up for now. I'm a little tired. Let's see, after in the evening maybe I'll try to get back to this and complete this again with a better energy. So yeah, for now let's just stop and see ya. Have a great day ahead.